folks. I get excited for only very few people nowadays. I've been around for so long, but this person, to me, is an icon. He's iconic to me. He's been around for a while. He's done so much stuff: stage, screen and stage. He's a writer, producer, singer, dancer, actor. He's been on so many iconic shows like Nip Tuck, which I loved. But he's done a bunch. He does so much stuff. I mean, off Broadway, he's just, oh my God, this guy is amazing. And he's also a host. He's hosted radio. He's hosted TV. This guy, they say triple, quadruple threat. I can't even count that high. Just can't. And I'm just happy to have him on the show. Of course, of course, many of you guys remember him. For me, why he's iconic for me especially, he was on the original Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. Mm-hmm. And I love that. Love seeing somebody of color on there. I was so happy to see a fellow Boricua like myself. And then he's on the #1 soap for the last 38 years. He's on The Young and the Restless, playing a fun character. I got to ask him where he got that jacket from. Help me welcome the iconic Jay Rodriguez.
Oh, thank you so much for that lovely intro. Geez, I want that to be my outgoing message.
I meant every word. I'm very happy to have you on here. Now, what's funny is, so you've been around for a while. When I say stuff like, when I made that intro, how does that hit you today in your career? Because I know you're like the rest of us. We're all trying to make money, get our gig.
Yeah, I think for a lot of folks, especially when I first moved here, I was working with people who were also off big shows, and big in the pop culture zeitgeist. Those could be scripted shows, unscripted shows, but you just knew them from something. And I had worked 5 years on Broadway, then 3 years on Queer Eye, 100 episodes in those 3 years, but we only shot for 3. And when I moved here, I came here just to do a show, liked it, and stayed. So I'd never been out of work. When that show was over, I had a fresh dose of reality after 8 years of working consistently that some of the biggest names in Hollywood would have massive gaps in employment. What do you do? Queer Eye was not a show that paid a network salary, nor was it a show that had residuals, or like if someone streams it now, we don't see a dime from that. Never have, never will. And so because of that, I think people assumed that, when you do something massive, that you were just financially set for life. Interestingly enough, I do have friends that did shows, whether it's America's Funniest Home Videos, or they did other projects that went into syndication and they received payment after they originally shot. And so I think they thought when I first moved here, I was just part of that club because of the popularity of Queer Eye. But the truth was, no, I was just a journeyman actor who had bounced from job to job to job. And I always say, Queer Eye was kind of like one of my first major acting roles because I was a decade younger than the boys, and having to be this sort of Puerto Rican Emily Post, a cultural savant at 23, even though that wasn't really what they were looking for when they found me, it sort of evolved into that. And we became, for a short period of time, really focused on the word culture and how it related to etiquette, as opposed to examining the culture we live in. And I think the more you do a show and the more you find your place, you find your voice with directors, which are always cycling in, with producers, some stay, some leave, finding your voice, them figuring out what you're good at, you advocating for yourself. It took me a while. It took me a long while to get to a place where I could take control of my category more forcefully, in a way that was respectful to those who had employed me. And I think it was tricky because I've just done a little bit of everything. You start on Broadway, you do a couple soaps while you're doing that, you do a movie, then you get Queer Eye and you're like, I'm famous now, I'm on TV, the world will open up to me. But instead, Queer Eye was ending at the sort of beginning of a massive influx of unscripted TV, aka reality. So every event I get invited to, it was all reality stars, table flipping, hair pulling reality stars, and I was considered that. So I took Queer Eye off my resume, started from scratch, and then my first kind of booking as an actor here in LA post Queer Eye was for Ryan Murphy's Nip Tuck. He was at my audition. I booked it. It was the title character of the episode, Chaz Darling, who was this fashion stylist. Ryan Murphy likes to cast people who are kind of similar to their characters. I just came off Queer Eye. The character was a fashion stylist. So it wasn't too much of a stretch, but it required me to act. It wasn't a offer. I wasn't one of those people who came off a big show where I was offer only. Everything I've gotten, I've had to really audition for.
Yeah. Well, now you mentioned something that's really key here. You were part of the like that early ilk of reality TV that wasn't yet what it is later. So it must have been a trip to be now just lopped into everybody else. And you're like, wait a
Well, it
minute.
must have been like some kind of writer strike or something where there was the inability to create a lot of scripted programming, so they leaned into heavily, and it was the big explosion. And we've all done our, I've done my fair of shows where I'm like, people are like, that was a real thing. I'm like, that was, for instance, here's a great one. I did a series on Animal Planet about dog groomers, and it was structured like Project Runway.
Oh,
I was the Heidi Klum, and it was called Groomer Has It, where a bunch of dog groomers live in a house together, and each week we set them forth with a bunch of punny dog related challenges.
okay.
And week after week, we send someone back to the doghouse. I mean, it ran for 2 seasons, so I'm thankful for the check and the exposure. And they even sent me internationally to do some press. That
Oh,
was fun. But I can't believe that a show like that was made, although I would love to host a show like that now.
oh, I know, right? Of course, yeah. I'm like, hello,
Yeah.
yeah. But no, wait a minute. So you come from New York. You come from stage. I mean,
Mhm.
that's a whole other. When you're in New York, the energy is different than LA. When you're in New York, the work ethic is different. Like, I mean, how do you adjust to the work ethic? Because it's a whole. The both sides of the coast are very different.
I think it's one of the things people clock first when I'm on a television or film set. They're like, "Oh my God, you're on time. Oh my God, you know your lines. You must come from theater." And it's shocking that in some ways that is kind of unexpected to come prepared and on time. But it's continually said to me. But when I was living in New York, I was young. I had been training for this. I'd gone to, performing arts high school. Our teachers were not, they never coddled us. They never, sang our praises or made us think we were better than we were. My high school did that. I just got the leads and everything and never got notes. And, like it was a time that there was a time when I first got into performing arts high school when I did my first number for the teacher and he just looked at me blankly and was like, couple notes, and I was like gutted because I was like, what? But at school, I'm like the best. And so when you're working with real working actors, real working directors in high school, it prepared me for a couple months later when I graduated and auditioned for Rent. And I remember growing up singing in big mega churches that had, 2,500 seats. And when I found out that the Royal Alex had 1,196 seats, I was like, oh, this? I do this 2 times on Sunday mornings. I can do 8 shows a week for this little amount of people, It was very funny, but I wasn't nervous or scared, and certainly the tools I got in theater school um, prepared me for the work aspect. I think the one thing I wasn't prepared for was probably living on my own for the first time, paying bills, navigating what you can and can't do as someone who's 18, kind of coming of age, wanting to grow up with your peers, wanting to go to parties and play, and you can't and do 8 shows a week. You really have to pick and choose what you do. So there was kind of like a moment in my life where I was so structured and regimented that when I joined Queer Eye, I got to actually oddly relax a little. I mean, we drank on the job. It was a different beast altogether.
Yes, and and it's not lost to me that it's Gay Pride Month or Pride Month period, Queer Pride Month. You guys used the word queer
Mhm,
before it was even. I mean, it was just starting to kind of come back in a way that we were claiming it.
mhm.
Um, and you were like, I mean, this show crossed over. This
Yeah, I
show,
think we wanted the double meaning. We wanted the Webster's dictionary multiple meaning of it all. It does identify um, a, a kind of sexuality, sure, but it's also you defined as uniquely different. So if you can see it as the queer because we're queer, but also uniquely different, a different way to look at things was really the mission statement of the show. And I think it reversed the sort of locker room razzing that some gay folk have experienced growing up or queer folk. And you can kind of give it back to the comedically saying this perpetrators. in a fun, lighthearted way. We kind of took our power back and it made for great television. Also, at that time, you didn't see a lot of gay straight friendships depicted on camera. And I think one of the things that that show did successfully was it sort of bridged the gap and show us how we are all a lot more alike, how we can learn from each other. And we thought we were making a comedy. We had sitcom directors directing us. And the first time that we give the guy the makeover, it's the last moments we're going to see him. The producer steps in. All of us have already told the guy what he's going to do that night. We're about to leave, and the producer always says, "Okay, Bob, this is the last time you're going to see the boys. If you want to say anything, here's your chance." And the first guy on my first day of shooting was like, and he broke down and we laughed because we thought he was kidding. We did not know we were making a show that would have an emotional charge this way, or certainly that a straight guy would
Right.
feel emotionally charged by this. And what we came to realize was some of these guys had never had intimate in the emotional sense relationships with men. And they had five strangers who at the beginning of the week, they wouldn't want us to stand too close to them. You know, it was a little underlying homophobia tension in the room. But by the end of the week, we were like, you know, brothers with this guy. And we spend 2 weeks before we even see him prepping to meet him. So we're invested in his life. And I think anyone might feel that way, but it was the first, we didn't come into it thinking it was a show that would ever have violins during an emotional moment. We did not foresee that. And maybe the creators did, but certainly not as a cast. That really surprised us. And we never played to it. We allowed it to happen. We never forced the emotion. And I think that really kind of separated us from a lot of television to this day is, you know, we're not playing for the tears, but if they come, we lean in and honor them.
You guys successfully did that. No, I agree with you. But I never thought you guys thought it was a comedy. I mean, it was like there was comedic moments, and
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was mostly. I remember my straight fan members just so like I love this show, and they got
Yeah.
years, and it's like guys and girls watching it. I'm like, this show really did. I never thought in my lifetime that I would see that on television.
I never thought, you know, and I also thought, you know, when I was doing the show, it was called, you know, reality or unscripted or whatever they were calling it at the time, but we never talked about or showed in any meaningful way anything about us, about our lives. Like we were always propelled and postured to be sort of these queer superheroes who had access to anything. And to be honest, during that time, at season one, no one wanted to work with us because of the title. Then season two, when we became a hit, then everyone, the same vendors were like, actually, now we'll work with y'all. And so it was really fascinating because we did have access to almost anything. And I think Sex and the City said, I've been listening to Are You a Charlotte?
You
Um, yeah. And Kristen Davis's podcast about Sex and the City. And I think we had that in common with them. I think in the beginning, people didn't know what they were, you know, going to be like. And now when they shoot in New York, everyone wants them to shoot at their place of establishment because it'll be something they can market to future customers. Um, you know, it's interesting. Queer Eye came back with the reboot right in almost lockstep with the Trump administration coming in. And at the time, we had the Bush administration who
yeah,
was anti-gay marriage. It was, you know, but at the same time, Bush referenced us at the White House Correspondents' Dinner in a joke, in a nice way. And so there was, of course, we're not voting for you, but there seemed to have been, or at least it felt at the time, we were getting away with getting into conservative leaning households and being celebrated by them. It's certainly a far cry from where we've come now. But it's fascinating that we sort of, you know, we weren't always welcome in every space. That's true back then. But it was, if they didn't like us, they were definitely more silent. We didn't have social media, so we didn't see any of that. And I remember dating a psychologist, and he's like, "You're in my textbook as one of the shows that helped push society forward in terms of gay acceptance." And I use that specifically because we were gay men. We were not the full alphabet mafia, unfortunately. When we did make over a trans man named Miles who lived in Brooklyn with his trans man, with his roommate who was also a trans man. And I think that story was kind of new for television in the early 2000s. And I remember the creator of the show, I saw them maybe a year ago, and they're like, we just made over the first trans man on Queer Eye. I was like, oh, no, no. We did that 20 years ago. Not the first,
Yes,
but maybe the first for your version. Yeah.
that's so funny. Also, like, so this leads into you did an autobiographical stage show.
Yes.
And I think that's very brave, first of all, to do.
Oh, at 25, I can't believe I did a This Is
Yeah,
My Life with a full intermission, full 14-piece orchestra,
I
30
know.
dancers, four background singers as a big one night only benefit for the Actors Fund. I don't know what that kid's moxie, like where that came from.
You're young. You're young. Fearless. You're young.
Fearless. I
I,
wish I had an ounce of that today. I would be too shy. Now I tour the Cabaret show, but it's just me.
oh wait a minute. You like you have now, I mean, you have even more stories now. You can tell.
Oh, I have all the stories, and I think maybe that's what I'm fearful of. Is I wasn't, I never drag anyone. I try to, I did I did it in New York at 54 Below, and the reviewer for Broadway World said something to the effect of like, it's like an intimate evening with a good friend over a drink who tells you really great saucy stories, but never names names. So I try to keep it classy. And if you want to really do deep dives and put the pieces together, sure, you can connect the dots. But, it's my story. And I think for a long time, especially talking about Queer Eye, I was very scared because I didn't want people to think I was bashing it. I didn't want to ruin someone else's memory of the show because there were aspects of it that were tricky.
Sure.
But also, like, at what point do you get to tell your own truth and your own story? And, you kind of lightly touched on it earlier, but like, as the token person of color, as this queer, somewhat femme presenting Latin guy on the show, the representation for a lot of people was, it was broader than just the communities that I intersect with. A lot of people who were like Indian thought that because of the spelling of my name, they're like, thank you for what you're doing for the Indian community. I was like, I'm not Indian. I wish I was. I'm not. But when you don't have a lot of visibility, I myself, the same, like, for instance, Disney, like I remember liking Aladdin because he looked like me, but we're not from the same part of the world. And so you sort of become the token. But with that, there was a very overt shift in terms of how people were successful on my version. Meaning, at that time, everyone was getting $1 million endorsement deals, and I didn't get anything like that. I think to the date, I'm the only Queer Eye guy who hasn't gotten some major deal. But at that time, I just wasn't considered like safe or whatever. I was Latin. And this is what literally agents felt comfortable saying to your face back then. You're Latin. We could try reaching out to Taco Bell, but you're not even Mexican. You know what I mean? It was really, it would be things that would really shock folks today. But when you don't have equity in the same way as your co-stars for what you helped create, Carson and I think had the highest Q rating out of the entire cast, which is a rating on how the audience receives the characters. And it just didn't, I didn't have the same experience and nor opportunities, but yet I was considered one of the more entertaining ones on the show. So it was a different time. And so who I am today might have been celebrated with a little bit more equity in a project than maybe it could have been 22 years ago.
Yeah, no, I just want you to know, those of us, we appreciated you. So I just want you to know, the fans did. I saw something represented that was like, it's like one of my cousins. I love it.
Well, that was exactly what I think it felt like for me. I was like, the commerce comes from the lives change, the people who feel seen. That's the commerce for me.
Yes. I've met Carson several times. Great guy, too. Another great guy.
Yeah, he's actually in LA right now. He landed on Sunday, and I was gonna go out with him, and then he was like, my call time's 1, and then he got to his hotel, and he's like, oh, they just said it's 9 a.m. I can't go out. So hopefully we're gonna connect later in the month.
Yeah, he's great. And I love Carson. But no, everything you said, I mean, like I said, again, you're still a trailblazer and icon for those of us out there doing that. But I think it's another show in you somewhere you probably could do if you dug in there. You got
Yeah, I mean, I love doing the cabaret shows. I'm doing one Cathedral City at the Roost on June 21st, which is like the day before my birthday. And it's like, and yeah, I'm calling it the birthday cabaret show, which I loved doing shows, singing songs. But the funniest thing is most people don't know I sing. So
Right.
it's really fun for
I
me.
mentioned it. Like, oh, he's a singer too. He's a singer.
Yeah. So when you go in, you tell your stories, they're going to expect stories, but they're thinking you're going to Leslie Jordan it. You're going to tell these
Oh,
stories but little do they know that it's infused with music and great songs and so that is always fun for me for an audience because that's the number one thing people say after. I didn't know you sang, with an A,
hey, but hey, you sang,
long A.
and you
Yeah.
can sing. But
Yeah.
here's the thing. So, where does that fall in all of your? Because I mean, you're a multi hyphenate. Where does that fall?
I think I love the idea of storytelling. I think that is the number one thing. I grew up watching John Leguizamo's one person shows, whether it was Spicorama or Ghetto Clown or any of the ones that he's toured with for ages, where he plays all these different characters as he takes you through this journey or sort of this walk through his life or his lived experiences, and he sort of becomes and evolves these different characters. I love that. Lily Tomlin, Whoopi Goldberg with these one person shows. That's what I really wanted to do. But in New York, I remember the emphasis was put on a cabaret must include music. So that's how it started. But I think if I had my withers about me, I would partner with a writer, have them come to some of my shows, find the meat in the stories, and then flush them out and then kind of try to mount it on its own without the music or maybe a musical moment and play all these characters and kind of try to follow in the footsteps of idols of mine like Lily Tomlin and John Leguizamo and Whoopi, who have successfully done these one-person shows and maybe, pitch it to someplace like the Public or something. Yeah, in New York.
Yeah, I got to see Carrie Fisher do Wishful Drinking, where she
Oh,
on
yeah.
Broadway. It was I mean, it was wonderful. And when she
Yeah.
pulled out that chart, folks, I know it's so funny. Now, so my mother was married, and she's this whole thing. It's hilarious.
Smart. Need the family tree.
Family tree. I love it. It's hilarious. But I think it's in you. It's in you. I think you can do
Yeah.
that. The soap world, because now we have it, but it's not your first time in the soap world, though.
No, no, no. The first I think acting job I had on camera was on All My Children, and they had me listed in as 1993. That's wrong. We recently changed it to IMDb.
Oh,
I think it was the year 2000. I don't even know if I was 20. I might have been 21, maybe 2000, 2021. But like Josh Duhamel was still on the show. It was that kind of era of All My Children, and I played a dad who was driving through Pine Valley, and my wife goes into labor, so we pull into the hospital, and she gets rushed off, and that's complications, and I'm spending my Thanksgiving with the family who's sort of supporting me, and then they deliver my baby, and she's beautiful, and it's great. I just buzz cut my hair, so I look like Justin Timberlake after he buzzed his. And I was like 21, and I was playing this young, straight dad, and I thought, this is great.
yeah, yeah.
So when Queer Eye came along, I was like, uh-oh.
Oh,
Uh-oh, we gonna do this gay thing? What if I don't get roles like that anymore? I
right.
thought because at the time, this is something that people still say, like, are you scared of getting pigeonholed? And I was like, of playing just gay characters? I mean, I still play straight ones too, but I don't think Meryl Streep wakes up every morning thinking, God, I hope I book a lesbian character, even though I'm not a lesbian,
Right.
because that'll really prove I'm a good actor. I think what you hope for is that the roles now aren't cliches like they used to be, so that maybe your character is queer, maybe they aren't, but that the role is so much more expansive than their orientation or identity. That's really like the C storyline, if at all mentioned, and you get to do the meat and potatoes and the heavy lifting in the episode. That's sort of the world I'm living in and navigating. Certainly there are fun, campy roles, which every now and again I love to take because it's a fun reminder and I know how to kill those. But the majority of them aren't that character. So
You have a good point. You don't want the low hanging fruit.
no,
You can play.
unless you need a check, and then baby, get your check. I'm not going to be mad. I'm not kicking
That's
out.
true too.
Right.
That's true too. We're not gonna turn away everything. But I'm just saying.
No.
But I think, but in all seriousness, I think in some level, yes, you don't want the low hanging fruit. You want something that's really good,
Yeah.
no matter what it is, because
Yeah.
you can kill though. You can do
And
that.
that's what I feel like has gotten better in the writing. There's so many roles where I'm like, oh, and they like say all the stuff. Also, character is queer, and it's not in the script. It's just to inform the character and might be what's going to happen later down the line. They might have a partner, they might have a storyline involved for that,
Oh
but
god,
it's not the first thing they mention anymore all the time. It used to be like the first thing. And you're like, oh, And you could read through the lines the kind of gay they felt was acceptable. Fabulous, fun. If you're in an audition and you're just playing it a little too um, unidentifiably queer, like you can't really put your finger on is it this person, is it?
Like Oscar, oh yeah, all that stuff.
And they want you to, they can't tell you to gay it up.
No, they
So what
can't.
they'll say is like, I think he's just, I think you just have a lot more fun with it. I think he's fabulous. Lean into that. And there are all these code words to tell you, girl, you better get your glitter on. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I guess that's very true. Okay, so how did Pietro come into your life? How did this role come to you?
So this is an interesting story because I got the audition and my manager followed it up with, from my agents. Then my manager followed it up with, we can pass on this one. It's just a soap. You don't have to go in on it if you don't want to, because soaps do not pay
All
uh,
right.
similar to a normal guest star on a primetime show.
Right, you go.
So there is a pay gap that, of what you're thinking you're going to make on like, a nighttime show versus like a daytime show. So I said, hold on, let me read it. And I read it, and my first day that you meet my character was the audition. So it was four
Oh,
scenes.
okay.
They even cut some of it before we started shooting because Haley got sick. So we had to reshoot that 3 weeks after I shot all the other stuff
Oh,
because she wasn't available. So they cut some for time just for the when the reshoot day happened, but it was even more funny and outrageous. And when I read it, I was like, oh no, 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 no. No, I need to play this character. I don't want to see this butchered. I don't want to see a straight man in here trying to like lisp it up. Like I don't, I'm gonna go ahead and I know what this is. Please let me just go in. So I audition, I self-tape, and then yeah, then I remember being at lunch and someone messaged me who had insider knowledge and said, I heard you make a good party planner. I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, I'm familiar with someone at casting and heard you play a good part. And I was like, oh yeah, I mean I'm up for it, but I don't know like if it's gonna be me. And then they said, I think you have nothing to worry about, wink. And I'm like, so then an hour later I get the offer. So I guess they found out before me and were like getting in the DMs. I was like, okay,
there's all kind of people out there. The soap world is very connected. Trust me, they're out there. They know something before we do sometimes.
for sure.
But no, it's fun. It's a fun role. I have to ask, was that little thing you did with Amelia Heinleigh's character? Was that you adding that in there? I was like,
Yeah.
because she was like, oh, she's like, I was like, that's cute. I was
It
like,
might have been like he shakes her hand or touches her shoulder or whatever, and I was like, I think I said something, and I was like, like I wanted a moment, and then I like this idea that Genoa City is larger than what we see, and he's from a different part of town that they've all visited.
right.
He throws parties in places like my little fake background here, but like I wanted it to feel like he's different. He loves these people. He idolizes their lifestyle. He's been a longtime fan. Maybe they inspired him to even get into the line of work that he's in. But I wanted him to somewhat be in a space of, since they'd heard so much about him, to have these isms. Mandeline, who does the costumes, created this, like basically it's a strip of fabric that she kind of fashioned
Oh,
into. It's almost like an ascot bolero kind of situation, and they always just fabric from the shirt. That was a thing. A pinky ring was a thing, and then if you, I favored this hand a lot when I was working because I just like I don't wear jewelry, so but in real life, and I like this idea that he was in this show for sure. The costume informed a lot of the choices, which I loved because when I saw them on the rack, um, I didn't at first trust that it would be right. And that's why I'm not a costume designer. Mandolin, who is, I think, relatively new within a couple of years at Young and the Restless, has brought such a breadth of creativity and style to the cast. Everyone looks fantastic. She will construct garments, meaning take a dress and then take a men's lapel and sew it onto the shoulder of the dress, which she did with one of the characters in the episode, the white dress that has the satin lapel. That's a men's
Yes.
blazer thing that she put in there, and then she added a brooch to keep it in place. Like she's a costume designer. When I saw what she intended to do with Pietro, I was like, oh yes. I was thinking too small. I was thinking,
Oh, funny.
I was thinking a little like Carson, like I don't know, not in that way. That's even too big. I felt like the guy from Bloomingdale's, and I feel like when we had these small accents, I was like, I know who he is. This is gonna be a thing. And then when they reference me and I hear them talking about it, I go in for it again. I wanted him to define movements and characteristics. I also look. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. From the minute I started shooting, I was like, oh God, I want to come back. This is after day one, and I don't always feel that way about every job I do. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that was wonderful, and I'm glad I got to do it. But this one, I was like, I see it for myself. Well, I see it for the character.
You got a lot of screen time. Seriously, the background, you got a lot of screen time back
They
there.
kept putting me like they kept saying, Jay, we need you in the shot. So can you stand over here? Yeah.
Yeah, you were there.
But mind you, there was some days I didn't say nothing or next to nothing. I had to be there all day. So I was like, well, I guess I'm in the shot. That's cool. Happy for it. I was thankful. I mean, they really, they did an announcement in Us Weekly. They did a big launch the day before at Entertainment Weekly with me. Like, I was really impressed. That doesn't normally happen where you have a guest star, in this instance, a recurring role, where the network or PR firm that is responsible for promoting the show cares much for the guest star. So it was really cool. And I think I just felt so welcome. They also, it's a family reunion for them. Like they don't all shoot together. It's rare. A wedding, a funeral,
Yes.
birthday party. So they got to play catch up with each other, which was fun to witness.
Yeah, I know most of them. I know Matt Kane, the PR. I know all the folks over there.
Yeah.
But no thing. So now I would ask you the jacket. I love the jacket. So who was you wearing? Where did that come from?
God, I wish I knew who made the jacket. So the pink jacket we start off with was kind of like a florally paisley-ish, and I saw it and I was like, oh my God, that is so Carson Kressley going to the Derby. Like, this is so not me. And I put it on, and that was, I think, when I was like, oh yeah, this is good. And even though it's not like a color I would wear, oddly, the red and black shirt,
Yeah.
I thought the same thing until when they did my announcement in the Queer Tea website. They used a picture of me from the Bros red carpet, almost identical to the shirt she
Right.
had selected for me. So it was me.
So you can
Um, and I think there's just something so fabulous about being the queer thing, not sexually necessarily or sexuality wise, but being the different piece of the puzzle and all this was kind of fun. I mean, everyone looked fabulous, and but it was really kind of fun to kind of live in this world that was like, oh my God, who is this guy?
Yeah, you're in there. So I mean, like I said, we have legends like Melly Thomas Scott and Eric Braeden.
Couldn't have been nicer. Couldn't have been nicer.
Very good. It's good to hear. I like them. I know them both. They are very nice people. I'm glad he had treated you very. When you go on guest spots. Not the cast not always nice to people. You're the guest
Right,
star.
and I always like defer to them to create the tone and energy. I'll say hello in the morning, but basically I don't bother them unless they initiate a conversation. With soaps, you get one take, maybe two if like a light falls, but like really you're just getting one.
I
So
was
everybody kind of like have their thinking caps on, and I loved it. Like everyone was really nice and warm and curious and wanted to have little chats, but I was very respectful of their time. And when, they had to be shooting, I made just sure to step back, and yeah.
Is that something you learned being doing a lot of episodic stuff?
Yeah, I think there was a time where I came onto sets and I thought, oh, everyone's gonna want to be my friend. And then I was like, oh, whoopsie, no, they're not. As the guest star. Until there's a couple things that happen. Usually hair, makeup, and wardrobe, no queer eye. So they're always like, and then by the time that trickles down to the leads, then the leads will warm up to you because they're like, wait, you did what? And so you get a little sparkle, razzle dazzle from your previous work history, even if they don't know it. Or you're in a scene with them and you win them over because you're really good in the scene. And now they want to know more. And so I was a little bummed because I felt like my strongest scenes were when you first meet me in the Paisley, but we didn't shoot that when I shot all the other things with the cast. We shot that 3 weeks later because the show went dark and then Haley had a 2-week vacation. So I had to like come back to do, I think we shot it in like 40 minutes, maybe 30, all 4 scenes. I remember I got there to work at 7:30 a.m. We blocked at 8. I went to hair, makeup, and wardrobe, got on set at 9. I was driving off the lot at 9:50 a.m. I was like, oh, this is the life.
They're always saying how fast the soap world is, and how it's like almost like being on stage. It's basically
Yep.
you're on stage, you're on a stage, but how there's just it's just like really quick. That's it. Just gotta get done. So you were ready. So you're like trained, ready. Like okay,
Oh, I was ready. I had lived with those sides for like over like a month probably, from audition, and then I had them for 2 weeks before it actually went, before it went to film. So like by the time I got to set, I was like, oh, I'm off book, kids. Like, you know.
I thought the outfit was cute. Everything was good. Your
Yeah.
your scene with with Nikki just fangirling out on her was kind of fun. There was a lot.
The first time I did it, they were like, no, because I was like, "Ah, and she's trying to tee me up for a meeting, and then I just, I love you so much, and they were like, we can take that down, just. But I wanted him to blurt it out, and I was like, you could keep the energy, it's just got to be softer.
Well,
So
you know,
then,
when you mentioned about the clothes, I was thinking about Will and Grace and how
yeah,
Jack was dressed down all the time, but he was much more of the broader character.
yeah,
Will wore the tight clothes, but he's considered the straight acting one. So what you're
right.
saying, I'm like, that was actually good because I guess if Jack was also dressed so outrageously, it'd be too much.
Yeah, they really leaned to like the unemployed actor of it all in New York City who didn't have the coin.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I like that. So I like what you're saying. I understand what you're saying about the whole dress. You don't want to outshine the actual character by looking so.
That was the other thing. I was like, are we painting the peacock? But then I also didn't forgot where I was, and I forgot that I'm, working with these rich Genoa City
That's right.
natives who have access to everything, who Nikki Newman is a style icon. Um, and Melody Scott Thomas, like in her hair, the pompadour, that took my breath away. She looked fantastic. And
Oh,
the gold dress, it fit her so well.
I did. It's about legend. I mean, she's a legend. We saw her come down those stairs that once. You were like, wait, we're all of us fans were like, wait a minute. Okay. Go on,
Yeah.
Melody. Go on, Melody.
I thought the same thing. I thought the way they teed up that entrance was fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I wish there was like a best outstanding guest star Emmy in a comedic role for soap.
Yes.
Because I think the whole moment where I'm pitching all these ideas and then I do the whole thing, we start with a poll.
Oh,
And I was trying to do her birthday party on a poll. That's the scene I would submit. Um,
it goes back to, well, for folks, of course, longtime fans know Nikki met Victor when she was a stripper all those years ago. That would actually have been really funny if you had done that, if they had aired that.
I think it would have been hilarious, or hired actors to do a reenactment of her life. Well, I think the
My
funny
God, it
thing
was funny
is,
too.
if
Oh,
he ever comes back, will he recycle some of the unused ideas for the next party he plans with them? You know what Nikki passed on, but might be right for you? An elephant.
oh my God, yes, that's right. That's right. I love it.
He just won't let it go. Like he really freaking wants to work with that elephant or whatever it is.
Yeah, I love
I
it.
don't know. Listen, I feel like as actors, there's so many times where you do a show and they're like, "Oh, we love you. I'm sure you'll be back," and then you never are. So I'm not like unrealistic that it might not happen, but as people will find out in today's episode, my departure leaves a lot of wiggle room open for me to return in some way, shape, or form. It's really going to come down to the fans and like if they comment or if like people get a sense that like, oh, we like him, like let's bring him back for fun stuff. I just personally would love to do something social on the show where you understand how she found me and who would have connected her to me is fascinating. Did I know one of the people? Did I, you know, it's fun. It's fun to kind of think of how she got my number.
Yeah, because they're introducing you to people, so they didn't know who you were at first. But like,
Right.
obviously, someone knew you. That's why.
Tracy, I forgot her character name. She was wearing all red in the red suit with the blonde hair. Her character is like, oh yes, Pietro, he's the best. Bring the bling. So
Yes.
she knew of me. So maybe she no, because she kind of says like, oh, who did it? So she doesn't know either. But I'm curious to see like how he landed in into the party. Was it his Instagram? Like, you know,
Because Clara's a newish character on the show. I love Haley's my girl, so I've known her for years, but she's newish on the show herself to this world. So it's like Yeah, who told her? Like who?
She's really good and really uh a real calming presence on set. She really is. She, moments before will be running something, and then she just puts her script away and she is just grounded and centered and just so good.
She is. She's good. She was on General Hospital. That's when I met her years ago, and she was good on that show too. I mean, just some folks are born for this type of acting. It's a special type of acting when you're on a soap opera, when you're doing 7, 8. Well, as a stage actor, you're doing 7, 8 shows a week. You're recording everything. It's some folks are really born to do it.
Yeah,
It is. Some folks get through it,
for
but
sure.
others are born to do it. Like with stage, folks think we can all get on stage.
Yeah.
Some folks are really good at it.
It is. This is a specific beast, and I was actually the one fun thing was watching everyone work. Looking at their lines, kind of going over it. Okay, all right, and then put it down. Do the scene, perfect, and you're like, what in the hell?
So okay, so you have a show. Please, again, tell folks where if they want to come
So
see.
my birthday cabaret show, if you're watching this and you were thinking about taking a trip to the desert, a little Palm Springs weekend, I am performing in Cathedral City, which is literally like a 7-minute Uber from downtown Palm Springs. It is called the Roost Lounge. They've got a beautiful stage set up. It's really cute. And it's basically me for 90 minutes. It is a really fun, irreverent top 40 and musical theater journey of my life, and it's kind of a little retrospective, and I tell all the behind the scenes stories of my career and love and relationships, and it's funny. It's a great date night. It's great to like get your friends together. Obviously I do have to now talk a bit about the soap because it's like what people keep asking
Yeah,
me
you have
about.
to. You have to now. You have to. Yeah,
Yeah, so I'll be doing that, of course, and then of course I'll be talking about Queer Eye and all the fun stuff.
that's very good. Go check it out. I'll put it in the description below, folks, so you can actually follow along and where to follow him on social media. He's on social media, folks. He's on there.
Yeah, come follow me. Come say hi.
Say hi to him. He won't bite unless you ask.
That's right.
But depends. I'm James Lott Jr. I want to thank Jay Rodriguez for coming on. Thank you so much. You're a delight.
You.
You're a delight. Daytime Today is on all social media platforms, of course. And then my Young and Restless after show, Young and Restless Spotlights, on this Sunday. We're back this Sunday. Me, Tammy Govea, and Amanda Russell. We're talking about, probably him on the show too, what happened this week in Genoa City. Everyone, please have a great day. We'll see you next time.